What's up, code breakers? I bought this guitar at a pawn shop. It is a Jackson MIK DX Dinky. It has EMG high Z pickups in it. Got a great deal on it at the pawn shop, but it needs some serious attention. So some of the things that we're going to do to it, we're going to do a whole lot of work on it for this video so that you can see just how easy it is, even without the exact right tools to adjust a guitar. You need to be able to do this if you're a musician. So the first thing I'm going to do is look down the neck, and I'm not sure that you can see real well, but that neck is bowed down. You can kind of see it right there. It's kind of hard to see in the video, but it's bowed down, so we're going to have to do a neck adjustment on it. The string height, if we get right over here, the string height is totally unacceptable. See how high those are? That's going to be a very difficult guitar to play. The pickups are way too tall. You see that's too close to the strings. That's too close to the strings. The bridge is raised up. It needs to be a little further down. Plus the guitar is kind of sort of filthy. So we're going to do some cleaning on it. We're going to do some adjusting. We're going to get everything tweaked out. Only thing I won't be able to do, since I'm at my lake cabin, is I am not going to be able to set the intonation because I do not have a strobe tuner. But we can do everything else. So what we're going to need to do first is we're going to need to take this little plate cover off of here. That's how we get to the neck adjuster. It's called the truss rod. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to loosen these strings. And again, I don't have my peg winder with me because I did not anticipate doing this here. So I'm just going to loosen them by hand a little bit because we got to get them out of the way to do the truss rod adjusting on it. We also need no tension on these strings. You know, roughly, if I remember correctly, guitars that are fully strung and tuned up to pitch, and I always tune mine to standard E tuning, they have about 400 pounds of tension on them. So if we don't loosen this tension off of it and do a truss rod adjustment, we could be in for some heartache. So also we need to be able to get these strings out of the way. So I'm going to pass the phone over so that we can get some videoing done. And please do not try this at home, working on this with a pocket knife. But this is what I have. I'm going to pull this string right out of the way since we loosened it. Normally at home I have a full guitar tech kit with jeweler's screwdrivers and all of the right things to work with. Again, I don't recommend doing it like this, but I just want you to see that even without all the right stuff, as a musician, you can do your own adjusting. You save yourself a lot of time and a lot of labor. You know, unless you're super wealthy and you can afford to pay someone to do your guitar work, that's great. I am not super wealthy, and besides doing this for many years and doing it in a music store and training under other guitar technicians, it's easy to do this yourself. You just kind of know what to do, and a lot of practice really helps. It's good to practice on something like this. This is not a super expensive guitar by any means, but it is going to be a nice one. Where did that screw go? Down there somewhere. All right, so what we've done is we've pulled this back, and right in here, we get the phone pointed right there, we see the truss rod adjuster, and it's an Allen key, so that's another big reason we had to have the strings pulled out of the way, so that we can get plenty of room and torque on this Allen key. And I'm just crossing my fingers and hoping that I have the right size. That one's a little too large, and I bet you this one's going to be a little too small, and it is. Let's see, I've got a couple more. And hopefully we'll hit the right size with one of these. That one's too large. There it is. All right, so what we're going to do, since the neck is bowed downward, this direction, the neck is bowed this way, what we're going to do is tighten the truss rod. These rods come together in the middle of the neck, and if I tighten it, it's going to pull them up like so. So I'm going to give it a clockwise turn. Oh my goodness, that turned very easy. I expected that to be locked up. Sometimes a truss rod, if it's never been adjusted or if it hasn't been adjusted in a long time, it'll be super locked up, but that one turned very easy. So I'm going to take a look now. Keep in mind, without the tension on it, the neck is going to be bowed even more because there's, or even less, excuse me. The neck is going to come up pretty quick. So I'm going to have to do quite a lot of adjusting on it. And sometimes, you know, we are working with wood. It trains itself, and so sometimes you have to forcibly let the wood bend a little bit. I'm going to give it another look, and we still have a little bit of a bow in it, so I'm going to give it just another little bit of a turn. And yes, this was turning this a lot, but it really needed it. So we're going to give it another couple. Now I can start feeling a lot more tension on it, which means it's starting to grab on. Okay, and then we're going to give it another look. Right down the neck. Okay, now if we look down the neck, now we can see that it's mostly straight. And once again, we don't have any tension on the strings. So the tension on the strings is going to pull that neck back a little bit. It's going to give it a little reverse bow. You have to have a little bit, the tiniest bit of bend in it. I'm going to give it just a little bit more of a turn. If you don't have the tiniest bit of bend in it, you may get some fret buzz. Now, that's not always the case on a more expensive guitar, but on one like this, this one retailed originally at about $800. And yes, even that is a little bit expensive for some people, but it still can be made to be a very phenomenal guitar through all this little tweaking. All right, so we've got the neck adjusted. And before we put tension back on it, we need to address the issue up here with the pickups and the bridge. And the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lower the bridge down a little bit. And this is a set bridge. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to give this a couple of turns and see these turn both directions. And if I turn it clockwise, it's gonna go down in toward the body. Now, this is something that has not been turned in a long time because I can feel a lot of tension on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a screwdriver and I'm going to see if I can put a little bit of tension on it. I just need a little bit of torque so that I can screw that down toward the body. And as I turn this, the bridge is actually lowering, and that's what we're looking for because we want those strings to be a lot closer to the neck and make this guitar a lot easier to play. And you see that I'm having to put quite a lot of torque on that because this is a piece of this guitar that has evidently either not been adjusted in a long time or it's never been adjusted. All right, so we've lowered the bridge. Now I've just done a couple of hand cranks on it. It's all I've done because I want to get tension back on it, and then I may have to release the tension again and put it back on. I may have to do it several times, but you kind of have to be patient with this. So before I even put the truss rod cover back on, I'm gonna get the strings placed back into the nut, make sure they're in the tail piece back there. I'm gonna get a little bit of tension on it and see how well we did with the neck adjustment and the bridge. And again, I'm not tuning this to pitch just yet. I just want to see how much difference we've made in the action, which is the distance from the string to the neck. And then we'll tune it up to pitch later, because after you do these adjustments, like I said, we're going to put it on a strobe tuner at some point, but I don't have it with me. So we're not going to be able to do that part just yet. All right, so now We're going to look down the neck again, and we're going to see that that is a whole lot straighter. The strings are much, much closer to the neck than they were. We still got a little bit of a bow, but we've got as much as what we probably need. Now, I'm going to lower the bridge on this side just a little bit more because I think we've got the space to do it. And what I'm checking for here is to see what kind of fret buzz we're working with. And it's buzzing just a little bit, but this is all livable buzz. And a lot of what you're hearing is the strings actually rattling against the pickup there. So what I'm going to do now is lower these pickups just a little bit. And to do that, we have to turn these counterclockwise. And a little bit does a lot. So we have to be careful about how much we lower these, because we don't want them too far away or your sound is going to be affected too greatly. So, and sometimes you have to give them a little push because the covers will stick. Give them a little push so that they've got a lot of space. All right, so now when we push that down, we're still pretty close to the pickups, but we're not too terribly close. Now here's another thing. When I start playing, my hand is going to rest right here. So I want to make sure that when I'm muting with my hand, I'm not allowing the strings to touch that pickup. So if I press down a little bit, you can see the strings are not going to touch those pickups. That's what we're looking for. We want them close, but we do not want them so close that they're going to touch when we start playing. All right, now all of a sudden we have a guitar that with a couple of minor adjustments, from going from a piece of work in a pawn shop, now the strings are much closer to the neck. It's going to fret a lot easier. This guitar is going to play a lot better. And again, I'm going to do a lot more tweaking on it and a lot more fine tuning. But this is how you can see that you can do just a few simple adjustments on a guitar that you find at a pawn shop that looks unplayable. And I have worked on it just a few minutes, and now suddenly I've increased the worthiness of this guitar and the playability of it tenfold just by doing those things to it. So I hope this helps everyone to see that they can do some of their own work, and we can do some other videos in the future to talk about adjusting intonation on the strings after we put it on a strobe tuner. That's a little more involved. And I'm going to do a lot more tweaking on this because I'm going to get it just absolutely perfect. But just a few minutes and we have what was an unplayable guitar to something that anyone could play and have a good time with. Thanks for watching. Peace out.